Look, I see, I got together. You ready?
Yeah. Hey. You won't be there.
I would call to order Historic Town of Eatonville, Florida CRA Community Agency meeting to order. Roll call, Madam Chair. Clerk.
Yes, Director Williams.
Right.
Director Critton. Present. Director Mack.
Here.
Director Randolph.
Here.
Director Daniels. Vice Chair Washington.
Present.
Chair Gardner will be late, but she will arrive.
Staff for the application. All this stuff. Page. Amen. On the agenda, we have presentation, Orange County CDBG grant. Administration.
Good evening, board, citizens. As you know, we were awarded a grant from Orange County CDBG program to renovate the 378 building on the CRA building. I need to bring you guys up to speed on that process. Before we get to the actual PowerPoint, we did a level 1 environmental assessment because the property used to be a fire station. We had to do a level 2. That level 2 is completed, and now they're waiting on the results from the lab to do the final report. So that's not discussed in this process here. Really, I wanted y'all to see the elevation and the floor planning and stuff that was there as we're moving through the process, because Rosarito is moving fast, and hopefully we're gonna have the 90% sometime this month ready. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to speed where we're at. Answering the questions about the grant. We have not received any funding, and until we turn in that level 2 report, they won't release any money. So but now we come back for once that happens. Yes.
What is level 2? What do you have to do for level 2?
The level 2 consisted of cutting out areas of the slab and boring down into the ground to make sure no environmental issues. Because apparently back when they did those fire trucks, but then their house is retarded in the apparatus and possibly gets in the ground or whatever. So they have to verify that, make sure it didn't. So, and you can go over there now, the cutouts are still open. It's not, they haven't covered up. Also, there was a structural engineering report that went on with that building, which was quite interesting. Building only had 2 pieces of rebar in it, and most of the cells were not poured. Field service. Yeah. So that's going to be in the structural report. Once those reports are final, I'll make sure y'all have them so you can have them for your records. But they haven't provided me with all the reports, so I'll need to see exactly. Okay, we're ready. Okay, as you know, the CRA building is going to be called Eatonville Works, and this is the concept rendering what the new building is going to look like. We're moving to a more storefront facade. On the frontage, that outdoor apparatus is really for like sitting areas, and of course the building will be Wi-Fi, so people don't have to actually be in the building. They can sit out there if they wanted to continue to work and look for jobs and all that stuff through the workforce initiative in the virtual office space. So next. These are just construction drawings. One of the things that I've been sitting down with Rose and Brito when they were doing all this stuff. I've seen commercial plans before, but they're used to doing, I hate to say it, real detail. So it's a lot of details in these plans, to make sure they get the specs and the work product from the general contractor. Also, I have to go back, we did do a RFP for general contracting services. We had 3 applicants that submitted, Prime Construction, Purcell Construction, and Bella Fort. Nobody else submitted, so those are the 3 that's actually gonna be bid on this project. Okay, so
Okay.
now you go for it. Like I said, this is a bunch of detailed stuff of things as far as handicap accessibility and all those things, and it goes into great detail throughout the plan to talk about those things that are required in today's code, because the January 25, the Florida building code changed again. So this incorporates all those changes into the plans. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had and saw what was going on in this process. So more details about the footers and the foundation and the walls. That is life safety. That talks about how you enter and exit in case any fires or anything happens. Like I say, these drawings go into very detailed construction drawings to be able to answer all of today's code requirements. That's just a look on the outside of the building, and a layout of the floor plan, with some light fixtures. I believe of the light fixtures. One of the things on this building, those windows that's on the sides are going to be eliminated, so you won't see those windows.
I have a question. Yes. With the sign there, the white sign with the former mayors, and
Yes.
when we gonna remove that, right?
Um,
It's a time capsule behind that.
right.
So I think we need to have a special day. We'll remove that. Cause there's a lot of papers and stuff that happened that day. They put that up there. So I think we
So
need to-
the whole plan is to create a monument. When we get to the outside lawn area, you'll see it. We're gonna put it in the middle of one of those landscape areas and put the monument there with either a fire truck or fireman, whatever. Keep it and restore, keep it preserved.
But with that there, we need to do a new one with the sitting board and put another time capsule from 2025 when we started.
Well, maybe we'll put it in the monument, but not in the building structure.
I mean, that's what
It'll probably be in the monument.
but most old, it's not an old building now, but most of those buildings built back in the past, they always have those, you know, like on the pool,
Yeah.
they have it on the pool.
Well, we're doing some historic preservation, preserving the capsule itself. And the reason we put it in monument is to preserve that, creating.
Be a good read, we'll put it out on that day.
Yes, ma'am.
You said that the monument would be in the front lawn?
Yeah, when we get to it, we haven't actually put it there on the drawings, but yeah, that's where it's.
I'll wait till you get one. Thank you.
Once again, this is some more floor planning, just kind of letting everybody know how things are gonna flow. The area to the front, also I see they have the ceiling planning for the roof trusses and all that stuff. So the area to the front shows you the outside patio. When you come in, there's a reception desk. That wall that's between those 2 desks, behind that wall, is the entry wall that would have Eatonville word CRA on it and all that stuff. So, but it's further detailed in some of the photos. You can see it much clearer. But that's just the floor plan, so you can understand how it's going to be set up. The engineer just recently finished meeting with our IT persons to make sure the IT room is set up accordingly to do the phones. So they'll work out all the detail stuff that's already been worked. This is just outside elevations, removing that flat roof, because there is a load bearing wall in there, and you'll see by the new floor plan, there's no load bearing walls. It's gonna be elevated. So this does, I think they raise it up probably about, I want to say at least 2 feet than what it is to give you the high roof look. One of the criteria from Orange County was we could not change the footprint of the building. So we maintained that footprint, but still was able to give us a better viewing facility once. That is more elevation, identifying some doors, windows, stuff like that. And there is. This is the interior. As you see, you have when you come in the reception desk, it says Eatonville Works. That's the name of the project. That's the name of the building. So it won't be Eatonville CRA building, whatever. It's called Eatonville Works. That's what we are promoting. This become a virtual office, workforce office, and CRA office all together. So a lot of activity is going to be going on in there. We haven't started negotiating with workforce, but we do know it's going to be something virtual. It's not going to be where they have somebody for. It's going to be a virtual setup where they can access workforce website, look for jobs, and all that stuff. I don't think it showed. If you can see that one up to the top left, those desks, those are the desks at the front of the building. And that's where some of the computer stuff is. And a lot of that stuff comes out of the ground. So they're not like you won't see a plug in a wall. It comes from the ground and they do all that stuff. So we made provisions for that also. And get a bird's eye view. And so if you go over to the bird's eye view or the bottom left exterior, either one of those pictures right there, somewhere in there, on either side, the monument's gonna with capsule. That's what the board wants to have. So we'll be able to do that on that side. Yes.
The reason that I asked is because I know that there have been some constituent pushback, some stakeholder pushback about the renovating of the building and its historic or significant presence in the community. And so since it's very obvious that we are moving forward, I think that it's important that we put that out there on Front Street in front somewhere for everybody to see.
Oh yeah. So before there's any construction started, anything, we're gonna actually have a groundbreaking ceremony for the thing. You'll have a big billboard up there.
Is the slab that's on the outside now the only thing that's like still there from anything back in the day, or is there other stuff that's on the premises that is historic in nature that would exist additionally?
Outside the use of the building is not considered historic. So
Right.
So outside of the use of the building being one of the original library and fire station sites, that's the historic significance. The capsule is, we're trying to maintain that because that's what those forefathers who originally made it into the fire station. We want to preserve that and just keep the historic significance of the site, not so much the character of the building.
Right. But there's nothing else
Well, if you
on
look
the
at the
premises.
building, we kind of maintain.
The original.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just really taking and becoming a storefront. Then
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I yield to Council Director.
I'll wait till you get done.
Okay, I think this slide is the last.
That was the last slide.
Oh,
I just wanted to give any other questions.
okay.
Director.
All right, I have several questions. All right, I know this project came about under the formal executive director before you came on board. Okay, I do have some questions. Okay, even though the building is not historic preservation, it still has some historic value. Because when we recognized when I first came here, I believe the building was still a fire department. And it had an old truck out there that they parked on the outside, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay, and those gentlemen who were volunteer firefighters, Mr. Matt Robertson, Mr. Augustus Franklin, Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Horace Baker, who was the fire chief at that time, and Deacon Samples, and maybe someone else. But the picture of those is right there on that wall before you leave the building, the bulletin board. But I did have some reservations about the name of the building being called Eatonville Works. Now, who made that decision to name the building Eatonville Works?
When you approve the grant, all this was done before me.
I mean, if Eatonville Works is in the grant, naming that Eatonville Works?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wasn't aware of, maybe I fell short on that one, but I wasn't aware of Eatonville Works. Because the name of that building should be something to kind of resonate the town being historic. And what we do most of the times, we'll move forward to do projects without even getting the input from residents or board members and someone take it upon themselves to do these kinds of things without even going before the board. So we should have had, I know it's Johnny too late for that. But we should have been able to make that decision as to what we want the building to be named, not someone else who wrote the grant.
I don't disagree.
You know. So I don't know if that can be changed or ratified or amend with the
As far as
grant.
Orange County is concerned, it's called Eatonville Works.
Is what now?
It's called Eatonville Works. That's the way it was submitted to them. That's what they approved.
We can't change it if you wanted to.
I would have to go back and ask.
Can you find out, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Because that doesn't tell us anything about Eatonville. Eatonville Works. I thought it was like Public Works.
I have no problem asking.
Yeah, you find that out and get back to me. I like to try to get that place right. Okay, now, the architect designed for that building. I see, based upon what was displayed, it's a very upscale building for this day and time, this picture here. So that's, you showed it on the screen.
You consider that to be upscale?
I say it's considered to be an upscale building in comparison to what we already have. So is this the actual design?
Yes.
Okay, so I was concerned about the what is it, architectural design for the significance of the town being historic. So I don't see anything about building design and it's historic. So I think that's what we should be.
But keep in mind, when you submitted the grant and the grant got approved through this processes, that's when all that should have been vetted. The county said, here go the specs, give this to your architect, this is the limitations, these are the things you do. They're compliant with it. He has a copy of the agreement. So he's working with the compliance of what you guys agreed to.
Well, I don't think we agreed on this. This is all new to me, because Miss Mundy, she shows a different design for the building.
This Monday only showed me a floor plan.
Or something, yeah.
Floor plan that design, that building exterior facade it may be new, but the floor plan is consistent with the same thing Ms. Monday provided me when I got here.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, as the executive director, can you look into those issues, please?
Yes, ma'am.
And let us know exactly
Yes,
if there's anything, because that's. Okay, okay, now, the plan for the building is what, an incubator type?
front office incubator. Build up, make it personal space with the CRA staff. That's it. The only reason you were able to get the grant because it was housed by the CRA.
Okay, did anyone do a study or get information as to why that would be an incubator? Was there a need for that? Has there been any documentation to show a need for that in this community?
All I can tell you is this was all done prior to me getting here. And I have no idea who did what, when, and where.
Let me ask you check right quick. All this stuff was done under Sharon Rose. She mentioned all the incubator. She did the work to get the grant. That's the one thing, to get the city, get that grant to upgrade that building. Of course, historic walls, and once you check out so much percent of the building still can be renovated. Historic, they do a lot of houses in a lot of places. In some places you can't tear the whole house down. to keep it historic. You have to keep the center wall or right. If anything with termite center, you can get rid of that. So definitely this building would still be, like I said, I went there where the library used to be, that little smaller room, one bigger than this corner probably. That was my first library in town, Eatonville, I attended or participated in. So of course this building was done by Miss Rose, not by the new administration that we have. And the questions, and I'm like, this is what Miss Rose said, some of the things you're saying. She already said this to us for her conversation when she was going to get the grant. So I don't know why we didn't jump on her then to say, hey, came up with this name, let's name it Baker's Building, the Baker's Building, the Slade Building, Fire Chief Slade, or whatever, because we got the police station down there named Baker, Horace Baker Building. That might have been down there at the police station, the old fire station. The second fire station I know of, this was the first one. So we can name this one here. I mean, if that's the case, we can name it Francis on Franklin, Mr. Franklin Building, whatever, but we didn't go in details of that. So that's what I have to say about, about this building. Yeah, she did mention incubator, and I was like, incubator, like, so she mentioned all these things you're saying at that meeting when she was proposing it to us. Miss Critton.
I also wanted to respond to Director Randolph. Similar along the lines, I know that economic development is a part of what we do, and so I think that played a big role in her pitching the incubator to us, the whole workforce thing. And if we don't think that there's a need for that in this community, I don't know what we think is important. I mean, I think jobs affect our everyday lives to some capacity. So I think it does fall in line with what some of our objectives and goals are. But, just to piggyback off what Vice Chair Washington is saying, I want to say maybe March, maybe even April, before she left, she kind of went. I mean, I had multiple conversations with her, and she was very thorough with me, answered the questions that I had. I mean, even in her presentation. So I think that some of your questions are on the record, valid, but definitely on the record.
I'm not finished. My questions, got two more.
Just before you go, Ms. Randolph, we have to announce.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just for the record, Chair Gardner has arrived in part of the meeting.
You didn't talk about 10 minutes, so just Ms. Randolph, go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now, I was a little confused, I know some of these things are coming. Sometimes things get passed and you don't really think about it until it's already done. Okay, but now, this building is a town building, it's not a CRA building. So I understand it got started by the CRA former director. So we as the CRA are responsible for the building of the town. I'm trying to understand how this process works. Because if we're doing something, shouldn't the town have, we as those who are town members, council members, should we have approved this for the go ahead, for the green light for the CRA to go forward with this on behalf of the town? I'm trying to understand the process.
So understand it's a town building that the CRA had leased for $1 a year. It's been that way for a long time now. The reason we were able to apply for the grant, because it was a CRA building. They won't give you money from CDBG to do a town, to report the town. So it's for the CRA. So understanding that, and from my understanding and talking to everybody, is that's just how it's gonna be. We'll still have that $1 a year lease. And it's basically a tenant improvement, basically. So that, I think that's the politically correct way to say it.
Okay, and my last question is, once this is all completed, where would the funds come from
It's a grant.
to fund this building? Now, I know construction, I'm just saying the operational part of the building, employees,
It would come from
lights on, lights off, water.
Assistant CRA. But
Pardon?
we're the tenant. We have to still operate and function.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where does the
Just as
money
we do
come
this.
from? Where'd it come from?
From the
The
existing
taxes?
It's all through the tip. Everything's done through the tip.
And we're currently maintaining that through this CRA now, though, right?
Up until recently.
Well, since we're not
Up until
physically.
recently, we were still paying
Like the,
water bill and all that stuff, but.
yeah, like
we've
women's
been
roles
shutting that
and.
stuff off
overall
because of
there. Okay, I was just curious.
We already, the OMB was being covered by the CRA.
But I want to say this is one thing that having a CRA in your community, bring your buildings to life. You know, it takes money. Town saves money on the end of improving that building. And like I said, we can't get those dollars if it wasn't for the CRA. They wouldn't give the town the money to improve the building to do that. So my main thing is it's an improvement for the town, a building in the city of our city to make our city look better than it is now in that area. And it'll improve other buildings around us too. So that's one thing this building will do for this town. I yield to Director Brenda, Davis.
Baffles me that no one in Orange County, maybe on our side, I see we have a spot here for handicap. So are we saying that we could put a building up with no handicap parking to make it accessible? I see we have the doors and everything accessible for handicap, but what about parking? And what does the code says about a building that you put up should you have access for handicap parking?
So what the code says, that's a planning and development question. Nobody has objected to what we're doing. I'm gonna tell you that. And the parking is gonna be on-street parking that the city has already created. There's no building along Kenyon Boulevard on that side that has adequate parking. Or handicap.
The CRA building can.
No, I put that.
Is that what's adjacent to the building in Macedonia parking lot?
What do you mean you put it in?
I created that.
Yes, but the handicap parking.
Right, it was not part of the development of the project. It was, I did.
So in the building, you don't have to have handicap parking. I'm asking because why would we take it away if we, yeah.
On-street parking, you have on-street parking that facilitates parking for that building, not just that building. Every building alone can park. So handicap, you get out of a wheelchair, you come up the driveway, there's ramp access going in. I don't think you paid attention to when you go into the door. There's ramp access or wheelchairs still access the building, enter and exit.
That's what the building should have.
The building code, the Florida building code requires certain things. So that's built into the whole equation.
And building code doesn't require handicap parking for
Building, that's a city thing. That's not a building code thing.
Isn't there parking for the current building adjacent to it on the, I guess that would be the east side of the building in that adjacent parking lot?
that's church.
Is all of that Macedonia?
That's
So there are no CRAs, and where are CRA signs over?
There never was.
Okay.
We just parked there.
I mean, I understand that, but I might be imagining, I thought we had some signs out there, no? Okay.
From Macedonia, not for that building.
Yeah, from Macedonia.
You had something.
And keep in mind, we're not building a new structure. We're just renovating the existing structure.
Yeah, if I,
Go ahead.
yeah, if I can add to it, first of all, I just wanna, commend you for just bringing this with Shane Rose and you orchestrating it now because I think it's much needed, regardless of what the name is, Eatonville Works or whatever it may have been. I think it's definitely something that we need in this community, especially with the grant money that's available for us to be able to move forward with doing this because we're not spending our own money necessarily, right? And then as far as the maintaining it, we got an interlocal agreement, through the town, like we've been doing for years. CRA has always taken care of everything in terms of the water, lights, or what have you, to keep that place functioning down there. And it's been closed now for about a year and a half or longer. So I think it's time for us to move forward with getting something done. And then people got to remember what CRA is. It's community redevelopment. You know what I'm saying? It's about redeveloping things and bringing it to light, like this particular project right here. You know what I'm saying? By me looking at the floor plan and looking at just the whole itinerary of it is, you know, it brightens my day to see something, that we already knew was coming down the pipeline anyway. Why it took so long, I don't know, but we're here now. So hopefully we can, you know, move forward with getting everything approved to start construction as soon as possible, while we can see this building go up and be, and used for, you know, not just the community, but people in the surrounding areas also. So it's gonna be a good look for us.
Mr. Williams?
Well, just to piggyback off of what Director Mack said, I mean, I like the whole facade and everything. It's giving us a breath of fresh air along the, I'm gonna say, quote unquote, our downtown. We need that, you know, so why are we gonna sit here and try to, I'm gonna say, stop progress? That's crazy. You know, cause as a community, we've been dormant for years. Ain't nothing changed around here, but basically, but a streetscape, you know, that we done did more than one time. Other than that, we need to change. Come up to, you know, when the people come in, or I see the people coming off the buses or whatever, like, man, what are they looking at? Come on now, you give me, yeah, you know, we give, but we, at the time, we give them a breath of fresh air. Nice building to come up to, you know what I mean? I mean, the only thing I like to recommend, I know you and I talked about it before, we have some kind of bench with a figurine on the bench. You know, could be your first fireman or mayor or whatever on the bench, take pictures. You know, that's.
When I say monument, that could be.
Yeah, that's part of that, but something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm a advocate for progress. You know what I mean? If we as a board can't, you know, see progress and want progress, we ain't doing our job.
Do we know what the hours of operation will be for the facility?
Same as the regular operator.
Sure. You in control.
Oh, thank you. Only thing I have to say is, I mean, rectangular is rectangular. This building is rectangular, the old building was rectangular. It's just an updated rectangular building. You know, that looks nice. I mean, how much modern can you get? We do that to our homes. You know, to our homes. So, and also just another bit of information. Prior to this being a CRA submission, it was a town submission that did not get accepted. So this design pretty much came from Ms. Mundy. But then when we saw there was another pot of money we can go for, some of that basic information was used for this. So we've seen this more than just as through the CRA, we've also seen it through Ms. Mundy.
I think it's much needed, because we're not developing anything else in the town. And hopefully we can move in a different direction than we've been doing over the course of years that we've been up here. You know, we sit on our hands, we've been sitting on our hands for a while now. And I think this is gonna open the door of opportunity for other things to be created, you know what I'm saying, as far as economic growth and things of that nature that's gonna push us forward to be a lot more successful in this town also, man. So I think it's definitely gonna take all of us to have that camaraderie to come together and do what's right for the town, man. But not just the town, man, but citizens in this community too. Give them something to do, and then other businesses want to probably perhaps come in here and, you know, get creative and open up space in this particular space, and, you know, pay us essentially. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna open up so many opportunities for us to get paid, so many different ways, man. So I think it's a no-brainer. When it was presented to, you know, to us by Dan Rose, but of course, with you kind of championing it now and doing all the logistics, doing this Monday, I'm definitely satisfied with in the direction that we're going in, and hopefully we can get this done sooner than later, like I said before.
All right. Oh, Councilwoman,
Okay,
me, administration.
okay, this all sounds good. I want to ask, what's the process for the completion of the work? Would it be bids? Would it be a bidding process?
As I told you earlier, we already did RFP, RTB invitation to bid
Okay,
for general contractors. Only 3 contractors responded, so this project we submitted to them. You know,
okay, so will we, as the board, will be able to make that decision
But,
based upon what, you say a contract, right?
so when you enter into a general contract, the contract it has to be.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that's what I'm asking, yes, okay, we'll make that decision, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's
I
not.
have a question for the attorney. Could you get me, I was looking, I can't find it, I'm having trouble with my internet. The parking procedure of Orange County and us included? Yeah, thank you, because I can't see that, it's like you open up yourself for a lawsuit for someone to say, nice building, and nobody's hindering process. Everybody loves where we're going. But you gotta make access for everybody and make it conducive for everybody to get in. So nobody's hindering, I disagree, nobody's hindering this process. This building is nice, but you have to provide parking for the handicap.
Town issue.
That's my issue with this. So what, with us being a part of this, we can get ahead of it and say, hey, if that's the case, let's do a setback or something to put it there, but at least we provide parking for the handicap and the disabled.
You can do that on the street.
Isn't,
There's a parking on the street for the handicap.
Where?
You can do that on street parking.
Where?
Don't you have on street parking?
It's not for the handicap.
You can make it one.
Well,
It's handicapped for the pushback.
You can make it one.
We'll see.
You have signs, it's more than one way to be crazy.
But the building will be handicap accessible.
The building is handicap accessible. You talking about?
Anything you build gotta be handicap.
accessible.
You can have handicap accessibility, but they gotta come from the corner down here to come to get in the building. I just said that we have that. That's
In
cool.
front of the building, along the street, it can be a handicap space.
We'll see.
That's a town issue once again.
I have the attorney.
Two things to bring to everybody's attention. Okay? And maybe this will resolve the issue. We're gonna lose the approach A. You're gonna have to sidewalk. That space could become a handicap space to address what you're asking. So we're not losing the one space that we have. We have to go through the town to do that. That has nothing to do with the building, so that's a part of it. We have to talk to the town.
The town hall meeting, you bring up that same issue and you address it at that time. So you can fulfill whatever you're trying to get accomplished.
Being a citizen of Eatonville, yeah.
Okay, that's what you do.
Being a citizen.
This ain't the town.
I hear the concerns and I think they are valid ones, the concern about the handicap parking as well as the concerns about historic preservation, making sure that we don't forget about those things that might seem minuscule but are actually very important to the community. So I look forward to whatever feedback you can bring us on that. I also want to publicly say thank you to Rose and Brito. I've never seen commercial floor plans, and these are very elementary and easy to read for those of us who have no idea what's going on. So whatever extra work they did, I'm very grateful and appreciative. I can't wait to see this come to fruition. Eatonville Works doesn't say Public Works to me. To me, it says come get a good paying job so you can have a great quality of life here in the historic township of Eatonville. We can take it back to progress to understanding. We can do town that freedom built. I'm excited one way or the other. Let's go.
number two. All right, second, public hearing, CRA plan update.
While the clerk is pulling up the CRA plan update. Just to kind of follow up on what has transpired thus far. We had a informal meeting at the Johnson Center, talking about CRA plan with the citizens. Those people that was interested showed up. When Councilwoman Randolph there, they both were there. We didn't get a big citizen turnout. As you know, we had our first public hearing a couple weeks ago. Still did not get a big turnout to come to the public hearing here tonight. And I don't know if someone's here to speak on the public hearing process, but I wanted to assure you, we did reach out to the public and make sure that everybody knew we're trying to update the CRA plan in this document. So That, with that being said, there were some changes that the board asked to be made. We added community land trust to the mission statement.
You make changes.
Oh, yeah, for the project team, I added, Ms. Gibson and Ms. Salamary, that's how you pronounce it? Salamary. I added Ms. Salamary to the staffing because all those staff people all took part in the development of this plan of it. Including Mr. Preston, but he's on the other side. You guys. So we made sure we did it a thorough staff input process, make sure all the issues will be addressed that they want to address in plan.
Going to the next page.
Yes. Basically, you had the executive summary and all that stuff. So, in the mission statement, the attorney felt we needed to use the term community land trust in the mission statement. As you can see, it's added on at the end and worded appropriately. You're gonna see it at the end also in the project list as community land trust. So to kind of reinforce those are things and activities we do. Other than that, the CRA plan is basically a 2015 plan that never went through the process. But staff reviewed it and made whatever changes they were. I didn't, whatever they told me to change, I changed. Whatever they didn't say, we kept rolling. So one of the biggest things about the CRA plan update today is we actually added a community policing component. Under chapter 163, community policing is one of our things that we have to do. So that's added in the plan that was not in the 97 plan or the 2015. And maybe it was in the 2015, but not as definitive as you see me explaining. So I had it in advance to answer any questions prior to the opening of the public hearing.
You said it's open for us to ask questions.
To mention that,
No, I was gonna say, usually we open it up,
You want
Then
that
we-
person? Okay, that's fine.
so this item, if anyone from the public want to speak on this item, they may do so at this time.
Have any.
And only for this item. You have no one.
No one submitted it.
Okay.
Just,
For the CRA plan update.
What's the CRA plan update?
just, they were, thank you, I love you all. But soon, I have to be for college kid. Somebody bought property with I. Excuse me, I can't hear. I said the property where I live at, college in Kennedy. I have seen some. I just want to say what's on my heart. Here. Because I heard feelings in me. I'm barely. Not feeling well. I went through a lot. And now I have to call people, find someone to be. And what I've been going through, everybody been treating me like here. Even the police, they do. Everybody makes it right. But if I'm ready from someone, and they need to do something by your place, it should fix your place. You just don't get there and say 1 month and the next month, person have to be gone. And what if that person don't find nothing? What if that person say, "Well, I never said nothing, so I'm here." Yeah. Please. Just wanna say it from my heart. The way that I feel. It's hard for me to find something else to say. And I'm not gonna be out on the street, 'cause I don't mind even going home next year if you going back. I'm not gonna be on the street. Well, I don't like it. Period from one to those supposed to be fixed. Lot for me. No bug, no football, and no, I'm still going out. Well, I know, 3 weeks ago, something like that. Well, he told me, I said, granddad, they put stuff out there, they're not feeling for us, that's evil. to hurt feeling. And I supposed to out on the street. I'm getting. Seeing, I'm gonna call. Like I say. I mean, when things go wrong, when people get hurt, over here in Eatonville, they're like, nobody else say, I'll be about injury. Y'all say, about lawsuit, I hear it and I understand. Y'all saying, oh, y'all have been nice to even here too. You know what they say, right? She's.
Thank you.
I just want to say, thank you all.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Regina Johnson.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Ms. Johnson. I had a question. We have, wait, hold on, I'm sorry.
The public hearing session is now closed. Thank you, my mind wandered. Is now closed. Director Randall.
Yeah, when did we have the first hearing? Was it the last meeting
29.
on the 29th? Okay,
And we're required to advertise for 10 days, right?
Today.
Okay.
That's on the top of that.
that's all I wanted to know. I did want to just make a comment though. Just got my package yesterday. And saw there was one change from the past update that was in the mission statement. Is there anything else that's been changed? Well, it wasn't changed, it was something that was just added.
Right, community land trust language that the chair wanted, and the attorney suggested in the thing.
Okay, so nothing else. I didn't see, I went through the pack. I didn't see nothing. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I said that was her change from, I think it was in the project.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
I know we kind of skipped past all the detailed conversation at the first hearing. Is that what this period is for right now?
You can talk about anything that's in.
Some of mine were, minuscule that didn't really affect the substance of what was being said. One of the questions I did have is it possible to get a copy of the finding of necessity?
Yes. I'll make sure you have it.
Okay. And then there were some spots in there where I was kind of not sure if the verbiage. I know our plan should be like loose enough to give us flexibility, so terms like will, shall, may are floated in there for that purpose. And I know that with the lingering legislation, et cetera, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I'm not opposed to that in any capacity. But it seemed a little Hungerford heavy, which I totally get when we're talking about redevelopment, and then leaving that door open so that if we want to, we can tap into that. But I didn't see outside of the community, I believe the community advisory board, I didn't see very much language that incorporates stakeholder input. So for example, let me just find one for you right quick. I think it was master plan. That's page 27 for us. Initiative 1, redevelopment objective and initiatives. 2.1, I guess, where it says preparation of an overall master plan is recommended. So what popped into my head is, of course, the current master planning that the town is doing. So are we saying with this document that we're doing a separate master plan or that we're collaborating with the town's
So
efforts?
we have the local agreement because they're doing certain things that we don't have to do.
Right, okay. That kind of digs a lot of my notes. For the things that could potentially be legislative conflict, for example, if Tallahassee comes back and says, all right, we made up our minds about what we want to do for CRAs, we're gonna leave you, but we're gonna put these restrictions in, it gets passed, et cetera, et cetera. If it does not comply with what's in our plan, are we gonna be required to come back and readjust it?
So if you look at the and the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, if you look at the last round of legislative changes that were being proposed, they were making barring trying to cut it off as of October 1.
Right.
That doesn't mean those people who already borrowed that goes away.
Right.
They have to complete those terms or whatever those terms are, is during that sunset time. So they didn't have to have it all paid for by October.
Complete, right.
So when you look at things like that, the legislature, as you saw, it didn't go anywhere because there were a lot of gaps in what they were trying to do. I think somebody wanted to sunset all CRAs 2039, somebody said 25, and that's why this plan is in 2045 to give us a larger window, 20-year window, because thinking ahead,
Right.
being ready for if things change.
Right.
This is the third, fourth year they've tried to go in and change the CRA, and they haven't been successful.
Okay. Just curious as to whether or not that would bring us back to the drawing board. Another spot, objective 2 on page 25, where we talk about our sponsoring area events and promotions. So we know that legislation has recently changed about that. How does that affect what we have in our plan now?
So I had this discussion with a couple of people that I shared with before. If it's in your plan, you can do it. If it ain't in your plan, you can't do it. And if you got something from a capital standpoint or something like that that's in the town's capital improvement plan, it has to be out of the town's capital improvement plan for 3 years. So that's why you see a lot of generality terms used and not specifics, right? So when you start talking about events, the 97 plan talks about doing events. So legally, we're fine. It's when you're doing something that's not in that 97 plan.
Okay, so for example, originally in that 97 plan, I guess specific to events, let's use PEC and Zora Festival for an example. We've been able in the past to contribute monetarily. Legislation has changed that has prohibited us from doing that, even though our 97 plan gives us the flexibility to do so.
The 97 plan also leaves you with the understanding the CRA doing something and you giving money, two different things. The law changed, you can't give nonprofits money.
Right.
Right. So that's in there. You can't do that, but we can do our own events and do whatever we want to do. So the big issue is using the term marketing, and there's a ways around it.
Okay.
So we use it as education about CRA district to get around the term.
Okay, let me just make sure it wasn't nothing else that I needed to actually ask on the record. Nah, I think I'm okay. If anything else pops up, I'll just have to go.
Any other questions?
You said can't give to nonprofits. When did that change?
That law changed like 2 years ago.
23.
I want to say it was 22 or 22. It was 23. 22. I know it's like in that last legislative session of 22.
22 that CRAs can't give to nonprofits.
Yeah. And when we have our board training next month, you'll see what you can and cannot.
You have no question.
Yes,
It was the connection for South Lake Destiny to Lee Road. Is that area considered
I just
incorporated?
kept that in the plan just in case it happens.
Okay.
So I didn't, and back in 2015, when Rick Keller was the congressman, that's how long ago it's been. They were talking about opening up that thing. So that's how I ended up in the 2015 plan. I just left it in there just in case somewhere down the road.
Is that property Eatonville the way Interstate Park is?
No, the back portion is on the other side. There's a fence that divides the both.
Right. I used to walk there when I was working at Denny's. Cause I couldn't walk one. I just didn't know it was Eatonville.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
it brings you right into the back of the interstate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
What about the community police and innovation?
Those things that you see in the plan are the 10, this is DOJ's 10 principles to community policing. And the chief was fine with using that language exactly, because it gives him it gives us the chance to work with law enforcement. It gives us flexibility.
Okay, because I know we've done it always.
Right.
Yes.
Anything else?
Well, this, we talked about the 97 plan and 2015 plan. Will this eliminate, which one is gonna eliminate?
So I eliminated the 97 plan. The 2015 plan does not exist. So
Okay, so that's just what I'm
it's
because
just a paper document that never went in.
so we need to put this in and make sure you go to the right people to get it passed.
Right.
But have it sit in the library.
Once the CRA board approves the 25 update plan, CRA plan update, it'll come back before you in the town council. I think I'm shooting for the second week, July. Because we can't get the agenda first. The second meeting in July, for the board approve it, then me and Mr. Presley will work with Orange County to get it through their process. We have to develop a whole new interlocal agreement and everything based upon the new laws, how they're written today, not how they're written in the 97 thing that we're doing. Yes.
And we also talk about best practices for maintaining and updating. I know it's been 29, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 years since we did it. And I know we have this conversation about bylaws all the time, every other year. Can we talk about what is best practice to keep this update?
The best practice is as you accomplish tasks in the thing is to update the plan, right? But that could be redundant because you may take a year and do 5 or 6 updates. So at a minimum, I would say every 5 years, the plan needs to be reviewed and updated.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Only thing I just want to commend you and your staff for getting the plan updated. Cause I know times in the past, at least I can remember, we were trying to pay an outside company to do what you all already done. So I just want to commend you and your staff on doing a great job of getting the plan updated in a timely fashion.
It wasn't just my staff, it was the town.
Well, I say, staff, town, whoever, everyone that was on the slide there, so I commend everybody.
Yeah.
Me personally, I appreciate that. We're using our people to get the same thing done that we want to spend a lot of money on to do the same thing, so.
And I voted to spend that money, so thank you.
Yeah.
If I could ask a question about legislation up until it has in terms of the CRAs and how it's gonna be regulated and how it's gonna work moving forward. Where are we at with that?
Well, all those bills died in a program.
Okay,
And they never made it to it. So they do this every year, whether the board knows that or not. Some legislature always come with some changes they want to make for whatever reasons. It goes through their legislative process, but it never makes it most of the time. The FRA has a strong lobbying apparatus to the Tallahassee that kind of push a lot of that stuff away. Because when you start talking about tampering with CRAs, what they do, the big cities like Miami, Tampa, places like that, they come with the fire to make everybody back up.
yeah. That's good.
Any other comments? Thank you.
So you'll see that down on the agenda in the resolution form, just adopting that document, and that will be transmitted to the town council after that.
All right, thank you.
Very hard to do.
And Ms. King said there were no citizen participants.
So I'm gonna put Regina Johnson's comment as public, since it was not related to that.
Okay. And Ms. Johnson, please don't leave. Just as an aside, I have a number to call for Legal Aid Society. They might be able to help you if you haven't called them. So I'll be back here. The next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Consent agenda has been approved. Board discussion, small business facade improvement program.
Thought it was important to the board that we come back and have this discussion about one. I think is too convoluted to mix multiple programs together. It's hard to track what's what, who does what. But needs to say I highlighted those things that I wanted you to take a look at for your review, provided to you And one of the things that stuck out to me more than anything is this notion that when somebody applies, we're making them go through a background check. And my question to the board is, who does that and who pays for it? Because it's not spelled out in the procedures. Who does it? So I thought that was kind of unnecessary step, but it's a requirement that you've done when you adopt it. Also, before we can approve any facade programs, it is required to go through a committee, a review committee. You spell it out in the policy and procedures, what the composition of that review committee has to be. So, and if you look further down the agenda, you see the recommendation to appoint the review committee, because that is where all of this starts. And I would ask that the board consider, because we're in the month of July and we are getting ready to start the budgeting process to get through July, August, and September, I would ask that we suspend all programs until we can get it in line with what the plan says. Because it talks about site improvement. I don't really understand reading this. It does not really tell you what site improvements really is. It has to be tied. Everything we do has to be tied to what's in that 97 plan. And I can't find nothing that ties site improvements to the 97. So we have to be careful about what we're adopting, because Chapter 163, Part 3, I'm correct, and the plan is what governs us. So we have to make sure those things are being consistent to what's in the plan. If you don't talk about site improvements in the plan, you can't do it. If it's not in the plan, you can't do it. Right? So we got to be careful about how we do it. Facade is in there. Site improvement, I still don't understand what adaptive reuse is. What does that mean? Because this does not really do a good job explaining adaptive reuse. Are we paying businesses to take a building and we're going to pay to support them doing the building for another business? It doesn't really give you that clarity that needs to be. So it's so objective. I just want things when it come before the board to be clear and concise and be tied to what's in the plan. So that's the only comments that I have.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to answer any questions.
I have a question. First of all, I support business facade for the community and for our businesses. Reading the policies and procedures and responsibility of the review committee and all of that, this seems to be very complicated to me. And it talks about the loan depreciation. You know, that's the part there that it's kind of like it's a little difficult for me to understand that process there. And then especially when it gets to the point where the loan is forgiven for its entirety for after X amount of years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I do understand what they're saying, but it's just very complicated because it's talking about it's moving from one thing to 2 years to 3 years to 4 years, etc.
Right.
Okay, I'm not really prepared in my mind until I can see how this works as a workshop. Maybe have some diagrams and columns so we can see, visually how this works. Now, I think this is my opinion. It's only my opinion.
Yes,
I did review those 3 persons that on the review committee. I was just concerned about those on the review committee. How did they meet the qualifications to make up? From what I'm saying, they will be making a decision, but that will come before that will be approved by the board.
So the 2 things. First of all, the review committee will screen all the applicants and say, hey, director, they meet all the criteria or they don't, right? So that person may die in the review process. That request may die in the review process and never even get to you. But if it does go to the next step, it's my job to go behind the committee to make sure when I present it to you, it's in order also. Now, one of the things this does not do is it talks about that amortization of the loan or whatever.
Yes.
But it never talks about how the clerk interacts into making sure there's a lien recorded. And it does nothing in there at all to talk about that. So that's why when I first got here, I asked you guys to do what I asked you to do, was to suspend all that so I can look at it and get them in order. We didn't do that, so we kept moving forward with whatever we had in the pipeline, and we got those taken care of. Now we have 3 new applicants, and I want to give them their due process. And if we would have just ran off and started doing stuff, that's not really their due process based upon these guidelines. And we had no protection of our money once we gave it out.
Okay, now I'm just saying this, I'm just my opinion, in dealing with this and also the financial side of it as far as the review. I was thinking in terms of having like a person on the review committee, like a finance person, maybe outside the town, or maybe a realtor or someone that can help to stimulate decisions when you come to applications for the facade.
But you remember your guidelines say 3 people. One is staff from the CRA. CAO appoints someone, and you'll see in the resolution who he told me that person was. And then the board collectively decide on something. I just asked a business owner because we are talking about businesses. We want the business community to reflect what the programmatic part of what we're doing is, and that's why I did that. So, and I'm making that recommendation. You can change that person. You can pick anybody you want to pick. That's up to y'all. That's not my decision. I'm just making a recommendation. You make a final decision.
Okay, I'm asking this question here. Does the board makes the recommendation for this committee, or are you making the
I'm
recommendation?
recommending someone to the board. The board can pick whoever they want.
Recommendation.
I was just trying to address the procedures the way they're written. It
Okay,
requires you to have a committee.
so does this give a confirmation from the majority of the board members for these individuals?
If we move forward, which I'm not asking you to move forward, I'm asking you to suspend all that. But if we move forward, you've got to have a committee to move forward with. And the criteria is already established by the procedures.
I understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Are you asking us to then table
So
number 8? I mean, is that
that's why
that would
that's why
come
I
with
see
it?
that first, because it would make the resolution null and void.
Right.
Because I am asking you to, because it is, when I tell you these procedures are so cumbersome, and one day we're moving this way, but then someone says, oh, it's adaptive reuse, and we have not properly defined what, other than facade. Everybody know facade is the face of the building, but site improvements, we need to be very definitive, but we're gonna, and that should be a separate program, a separate ask. It should not be jumbled all together and asked all together.
Now, my question would be,
Because it takes away from that.
my question here, okay, in a nutshell, basically what you're telling us, in order for you to be able to properly do your job and iron out all the kinks and get to a point of us having the understanding that this is what I'm gonna present, this is what makes sense, we're gonna have to pretty much, table number 8.
Right.
Until you come back to the conclusion of what it is that we need to do
Restructure.
to restructure it.
Exactly.
So
Bring it
what's
back.
the timeline on that?
I can keep in mind budget starts in July. You got August, then you got September. We can have all our programmatic things we want to do going into the next budget year in place. So I'll have it to you within that window.
And my reason
I don't want to tell you, it's gonna be July, because I'm trying to get a training session with the board in July. So that's July's pretty much gone. And then we have to start budget after that.
My reason for saying that is because, like you stated earlier, you want to give all the applicants their due diligence and getting this process done, whether they get it or don't get it, you know what I'm saying? But you want to make sure that they're getting their just on, what it is that, they presented to, you, and for you to present to the board, for them to get a fair opportunity. So, if that's what we have to do, I think that would be something that we should strongly, recommend versus sitting here trying to tangle it up and move forward with getting a committee, and then we're gonna run into a derail of things that is gonna raise red flags. So I think we need to, just make an educated decision on doing what it is that's your recommendations, because I trust your expertise, and sitting a CRA, position as director, because one thing I can say for sure, you've always done a terrific job with, that capacity of sitting up there, man, and, I definitely appreciate it, I do. Of course, sometimes, I ain't saying you dropped the ball, but the ball gets dropped along the way. But as far as I'm concerned, I trust your, judgment on what we need to do. And I'm definitely, recommending that we do what you said we need to do, so.
And one of the things I talked to the chair about, just so the board can know, I talked to her about it today, is when we create programs, we should not run multiple programs concurrently all at the same time. It should be like seasons, basically. During this season, this is what we're gonna focus on. Then the next season, this, but by July, the end of July, all programming should be over with. Because we're moving into our next fiscal budget year to start budgeting and all that stuff. So so that's what I wanna do. I wanna keep it where it's not this avalanche of applications coming in and people I wants.
Right.
And it's not consistent with what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it's gonna make your life a lot easier for everybody, because it's gonna make your job easier in terms of, ironing out all the logistics and just coming up with this format or whatever it is that you're gonna come up with to present to us. That's gonna make sense as well. So I think that's something that we definitely need to do. I can only speak for myself, but I think that would be something that we should strongly, suggest you do.
When this was first presented to us, I definitely thought it was a good idea. After having more in-depth conversations, I can see where we ran into a few road bumps. I know there's been some feedback along the way, about the program guidelines and, eligibility requirements. And I see you redline this all the way up. And so that does give me cause for pause, just to make sure that we are, being intentional and thorough. I know that as board members, it's our job to let the experts be the experts. We're supposed to look at what we're given and make an informed decision. So with this additional information, I am in favor of tabling this until we can, kind of iron out the kinks. My specific question as it relates to this program is in regards to the application fee, which I clearly overlooked when we adopted this program. I personally think that that is, in the terms of the TikTokers, diabolical. You're asking for grant money and I'm making you pay to ask. It's now refundable and your application is not a guarantee.
Right.
Are we a apartment complex or a resource? That is a problem for me. I also was hoping, and I didn't get to ask you this when we talked, so I apologize. I was also hoping we could kind of, compare and contrast the program that was in place before we adopted this one. I believe that there was a facade program in place. I believe Mr. David, Ms. Wilder were able to take advantage of those two programs that sound like they were more in line with what we're trying to accomplish.
Those particular applicants came through in 2018 or 19, prior to me coming again, so they were already in place. So we had to close out those, and we didn't do any after that.
Okay,
So,
to your knowledge, is that program a little bit more in line, are the guidelines of that program more in line with what we should be trying to accomplish with a program like this?
what I wanna do, so you can know, is work through the best practice at FRA and bring forth a whole new structure program without all the restrictions and limitations and impediments that stops people from even applying, right? Our only thing is when we give money out, we have to understand, we have to put a lien on that property. And this program, and even when that program was in place, they implemented the lien process only after I got it. It should have been in place when they created the program, right? So we gotta make sure the checks and balances are there and make sure everything we do is written in that plan. That's why it's important for the 2025 plan update to be done, because it gives us way more flexibility in programmatic issues.
Yeah, we definitely gotta give you an opportunity to do that, especially with the best practice.
Well, I think we did a great job and our decision was excellent. But it is always okay to make it better.
I'm not criticizing.
And I think we should charge a fee because especially for those who don't finish. Administrate, so, but credit it at the end. So if you, I don't know, if the fee is $50, you get the grant, then
It's
They-
reimbursed.
yes, something like that. But if they don't finish the process, you gotta track them down for the paperwork, whatever, then we keep the 50.
And that's the other thing people gotta realize. We create these programs. And I'm not trying to attack any one program, but
Please don't.
there's a program you guys have in place that is not consistent with the 97 plan. That's the first thing. Two, we shouldn't have to track people down
Correct.
to turn in their stuff or to follow up on their stuff. We shouldn't have to do that.
It's not our responsibility.
We're doing another outreach. We are gonna have another outreach, community outreach for programming. I talked to the manager of the weatherization program, so she wants to come over and make sure she gets that information out to our citizens. There are so many programs out there, we don't have to recreate the wheel. And so we should be the gap fillers, not the provider, because there's a lot of programs already being implemented. We just have to motivate, and I do say that, motivate our citizens to come out and take advantage.
And you took the word.
The resource fair was one of those ways to try to get them. Listen, I have to tell you, 67 applications for the Help CDC program, only 18 completed it out of 16. That's the problem. Now, some people are benefiting, and it's kind of hard to get information from people, right? So, but there are some residents that are benefiting both from Help CDC and Orange County's program. I just can't tell you their names or stuff like that, but I do know in talking to Orange County, some people are going through that process and getting services. But we have to do more of that and educating our community about the resources that's available to them before we just say, okay, we're gonna no slight anything by itself, but we're gonna go paint your house. That makes no sense when Orange County has a paint the town program and we can get free paint and all that stuff. So we gotta be smarter how we do things.
I couldn't agree more, because especially when I sat on the Young Cal Board, which is the Community Action Board, I sat there for 5 years as a chairman. And I used to bring information all the time to the town meetings and just kind of like push it out. I had brochures I put out here, and I kind of like just had information in front of me for my citizens. But it's an Orange County program that is available, that are federal money coming down that we gotta give away, essentially. You know what I'm saying? So I do encourage anybody that's, out there that are looking for particular grants, other than just the town of Eatonville. There's so many grants out there within Orange County boundaries that you can take advantage of. You'll be surprised of what you can get. So,
And just so when you say the term grant, we're gonna miss this application cycle because the cutoff date is tomorrow. But T-Mobile has a hometown grant. Any one of you, individually or collectively, can come up with an adequate program under those terms, and we can submit that. And they can get up to $50,000 to do the program. So there's other resources, there's other things, there's other people out there giving you opportunities. We just gotta be smart, and everything with us is not about using our TIF to do redundant programming. So, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, from an administrative standpoint, I am more focused on projects now than anything else. So.
Great, thank you. So we'll make that better. Any other? Thank you. The next item for discussion is an item that I I went to the TDC meeting, and I'll just set this up. I went to the TDC Tourist Development Council meeting, and after the meeting, I was informed of someone that came. They came to the Orange County Commission meeting, and they had concern about the Eatonville CRA. I was asked, did I know about it? No. And I didn't have any idea or clue what it was that was the concern. So that is why we are here to show the video. And do you want to take from there? You're going to finish? Okay. So we went back and found the actual clip from that meeting, and then we'll further discuss it.
But what I'm gonna do is play the video, then I'm gonna ask the attorney a question, because I want him to, before you guys respond or say it, I want the attorney to just say it loud, so. Okay, this is the Orange County Board of County Commission. May 20th meeting, and this is the public comment period.
Ready?
All the kind of stuff, I'll do that. First of all, I'm gonna give my little speech. This is not an indictment on one individual. This was an indictment on all of us. And to blindside the commission, blindside this board, and to not give you the opportunity to come forth, which he declined, to come explain what is it he talking about. We've operated a very transparent process. We've communicated with all the board members about everything we do. So I'm kind of baffled where that came from, because all our reporting with the state is in line, all our reporting with the county is in line. And it kind of angered. I'm not gonna tell you guys no lie. But with that being said, I'm gonna yield to the attorney, because attorney, the question of the day to me is anything he applied true?
So let me say this, and when Mr. Johnson showed this to me, he'll tell you, I was hurt by the comments myself personally, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I think there are only two people on this board who've been here longer than I have been. I want to say Board Member Washington, Vice Chair Washington, and Board Member Williams have been here as long as I've been. I will say this publicly. This is probably the strongest I've seen this board. In the 14 years that I've been around this board, this is the strongest I've seen this board. I will also say this, Board Chair Gardner knows this, that if there is something that I feel should be brought to this board's attention for us to handle internally or whatever, I would make it known. I've never had an issue doing that. I'm not a person that allows things to happen. I'm very vocal about my role on this board, which is to protect this board. With that stated, Mr. Johnson and I work very closely together. You don't see me say a whole lot because Mr. Johnson and I talk probably 3 or 4 times a week with understanding what's going on and what's taking place with this board. Mr. Johnson provides me with information so that I can do my research and get back to him before anything is brought before this board. The comment that was made that there's something in the water isn't clean with the CRA in Eatonville is absolutely false. If there was anything about this agency that needed to be discussed, believe you me, we would be having that discussion. That comment, and taking a step back to me, and the reason why I internalize the comment a little bit more too is because I am the person that's supposed to make sure that this board is doing everything it's supposed to do. And to have that comment made in a public forum that way means that not only are you all not doing what you're supposed to do, which there's nothing about this board. You may have disagreements, and that's fine. You're supposed to have disagreements. When they say iron sharpens iron, that doesn't mean that you're going to always, it means that you're sharpening each other and making things better. That's what iron sharpens iron means. But there's nothing about what I've seen over the years, some change that I've been back on this board, and I'm glad that y'all have allowed me to come back, and I appreciate this because I've seen this board the strongest that I've seen it since I came here in 2014. So, Mr. Johnson, to answer your question directly, is there anything, does that comment made hold any water? Absolutely not, no pun intended. Thank you, sir.
If I may, I just want to make a comment, if I could, not stating anybody's name.
And then Director.
Not speaking on anybody's name, but to see what I just seen is a bit disappointed because I got a lot of respect for that particular individual. And I don't know exactly what he meant by that, in terms of, whatever he said, but I would hope that he could come in here possibly and kind of explain himself. And I know a lot of times people say things, not meaning it one way and then it probably mean it another way. That's what I would hope that happened. But like I said, the panel is open for him to come in here and, possibly give his feedback on what it is that he don't like, perhaps. Even with him not being a resident of the town of Eatonville, we're still concerned with how he feels about this particular board. And I got to piggyback on what the attorney said. All the years I've been sitting up here, besides Director Williams and Washington, I've been sitting up here the longest too. And I can say by far, and not just saying this because I sit up here with you guys, this is the most transparent we've ever been. This is the strongest we've ever been. I can't recall us being disrespectful towards each other ever. I can't recall us doing anything that's, not genuine for the citizens. I can't recall us doing anything illegal, you know what I'm saying? Not to my recollection. And I think if we did do anything illegal, I know for a fact that Attorney Gregg is gonna bring it to our attention because he's done it in the past with me sitting on this board. And I can appreciate his expertise as an attorney, and I trust his values on how he brings everything to us. And if there's anything that I've ever had a course on the issue with, and he and I have always, been able to communicate. And listen, we got to be able to disagree to agree on some things also, and we ain't always agreed on everything. But one thing we will do is respect each other, and I think that's what everybody out there does. So regardless of what anybody said, and like I said before, I got tons of respect for this individual. But I would just, want to know what it is if he decide he want to come in here and kind of explain that to us. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys on how I feel about that. And I ain't gonna say I'm angry or mad. I'm more disappointed, you know what I'm saying? Because, we represent 1887, man, and how you are sometimes, how you are all the time. And if you're gonna, conduct yourself in a manner that's gonna be professional, I think that's what we need to, lean on more than just trying to insult each other. 1887 means a lot to me. I know it resonates with a lot of people in here because our 27 men that founded this town, you know what I'm saying, believed in a vision. They had a vision, you know what I'm saying? And that vision is the town of Eatonville. If you can't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. And I don't think this board is gonna fall for anything. So I commend each and one of you guys up here for the work that you do. People don't understand the decision that we have to make up here, not only for ourselves, but for our community. You know what I'm saying? It's not an easy task. Sitting up here looks easy because we make it look easy. And, having a strong director and having a strong attorney to pretty much kind of like cover us, you know what I'm saying, besides God, because he's the high and mighty over everything. But for those two individuals right there to give us everything that we need moving forward with all the expertise that we need to know, everything that they bring in front of us, they kind of like want to have a meaning about it. It's not like they're just tossing things at us. And like Director said, and I'm gonna say this in closing, he's not worried about other things that doesn't help this town. He's worried about building things that's gonna help this town and make sure that we're successful. And I'll leave it like that, man. But much respect to everybody that's sitting on this panel.
Director Randall.
All right, thank you. Just without repeating myself, board member, Taurus Mack, I agree and I concur with what you, just, made reference to. And I believe that if we can maybe send him a letter and ask him if he can, address his concerns about the board. And that way it'll give us something to work with. Because it may be just misinformed information or something of that nature. I'm not too sure what the issues are. But, maybe we can do something like that on a friendly basis for having to come in
I
and
did,
discuss that.
just so the board know, I reached out to him via phone
Mhm.
and he did not respond. But then when I sent him a text asking him and inviting him to come, let us all know what he's talking about, he said no. And I told him, send him a follow-up text, tell him that was unfortunate. But if he feels something has been done improper, unethically, whatever, report it to the proper report. Because we're transparent in what we're doing. We're following the rules that we are asked to follow and that we are required to follow. And if that doesn't please him and he hears something that doesn't go a certain way, he needs to report that and have the authorities investigate. Because we have nothing to hide.
I think he got a boards and stuff that anything was family with. The apartment complex came in and didn't do nothing. That's the only sabotage thing this time I've been through. That got to be what you're talking about. I hope that's what you're talking about, sir. So, you don't have to do sorry.
About that.
No planning and zoning records, planning and zoning meetings. You did not approve that.
But it wasn't CRA.
It was CRA. So that must be something that's the worst thing happening either in any time for my living here. So for the record, that's what we're talking about because CRA had nothing magnitude of that there happening and never will happen under the CRA board. So if you want to talk about anything, talk about that. That's what people need to talk about. Not something you don't have facts on. Thank you.
And the only thing is it was a quote scripture and then false witness.
Yes.
But I just want to state, in 2022, when I first came on board, one of the main things I had to do was regain trust for the county, go really down to those two things that we needed.
29 ended up to.
Yes. And I said, listen, even if the board doesn't approve the policy, we will implement it in the procedure. Because I knew I could do that. And then the money was released from the county. So to go through that, and I thought we've been doing well also, but to go from there to have this happen, it threw me off guard. So I think it is important that we bring it out in the open. Stand up there to the lectern, say what you have to say. But like it was stated, there's an election. there's an election coming. And I know we can say all the niceties, but there's an election coming. So we're gonna put it like that. All right, the next item is a board decision, approval of resolution CRA 2025-24, approving the 2025 CRA plan update.
So move.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, resolution CRA 2025 24, resolution of the town of Eatonville Community Redevelopment Agency. TOCRA, updating and adopting the community redevelopment area plan. Update to extend the CRA plan to December 31st, 2045. By way of this resolution as attached hereto as Exhibit A, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Right, so now you've heard the preamble. Is there a motion?
I already moved. So move.
Second.
Second, we're just trying to do it.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. The resolution has been approved. 8, it was requested that we table. So is there a motion to table?
A motion to table.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. All right, item 8, the resolution CRA 2025-25 has been tabled. Staff report.
The only staff report I have is to kind of put it on by the schedule. We are trying to do a training. I know the attorney's going to do the legal portion of that training. We're trying to get a consultant from the FRA to do all the technical stuff of the training. And we're trying to do it in the month of July. So everybody just keeps your calendar. I'm gonna pick a day that everybody's here. To give them a chance. And we may do it on a Saturday morning to kind of let everybody relax and yes.
Chair. Statement I want to make. You'll find at the diocese that I put a copy of the disclosure financial requirement. Deadlines coming up. This is a reminder. I think I did send out an email. I just want to follow with a hard copy. So make those deadlines. Yes.
You wanna make a deadline.
If you do not make the deadline, they do have a extended deadline that they'll give as a grace period, but you will have a fee.
Is that only for council members? Does that apply to
It's for
CRA?
appointed, elected, and staff.
Oh, okay. I thought you just gonna pick them.
All of our boards have to do this. I have to do it as a clerk. The attorney has to do it. Certain staff that can approve certain amounts of dollars have to complete the financial disclosure.
And it is now electronic. It's no longer,
It is done electronically.
right, okay.
It was required to do it electronically.
Direct.
Before you go to the board, and I appreciate you reminding us about that. I do want to tell the board that we brought a floral arrangement that's being delivered to funeral home tomorrow for Paula's son's wake and services. So just to let you know, I know if you didn't know, yes, Paula lost her son about a week. So, and we're gonna, I've allowed her to have every time she needs. So that's why you don't see any financial information before you, to give her time to get to that point to touch that stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
Where is the service at tomorrow? I mean, wait.
2 different churches. One's off South Conway, and then it moves to somewhere in Orlando. So
West Kennedy is a kid.
West Kennedy.
For the extra few.
Another street called West Kennedy. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll send.
So it's same day? Oh, the fifth?
One Friday at 6:30 and the other one is at 10:30.
And like,
10:30 for the service.
okay. But, okay, I'll go to the one on Friday.
Just in case if someone's listening and they heard Mr. Johnson and myself say that you cannot give monies to nonprofits, there is a caveat to that. You can work with the nonprofit, and just so long as it's within your plan. Before, it wasn't in people's plans and they would give monies to nonprofits. So just want, because some people may hear this and they may say, well, they said that you can't. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that they've changed it to where it has to be explicit in the plan. You can still work with nonprofits. So.
Director Williams. Yeah.
No comment.
I don't have much to say tonight, but the 1887 Juneteenth Committee wanted to say thank you to the CRA for pitching a tent and exposing some of our programs and objectives to not just the Eatonville community, but Central Florida in general. So thank you from the 1887
You got
Juneteenth.
it.
Oh, we appreciate it. I'm tired. I'm still tired. I'm tired.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out and being engaged in CRA business. I know a lot of times you come in here, I haven't heard too much of a fuss since the time I've been sitting here, and I gotta, just say, man, this is a strong panel that I sit up here with, man, and I definitely respect everybody sitting up here and respect all your decision making also, regardless if you, agree with me or not. But with that being said, I just want to thank the staff, for just always doing a sensational job. I know it takes everybody to be involved in making this thing run and work, especially people like Miss King. She's working on both sides, man. You can't help but respect her.
She's doing right.
And everything that she does. And then Mr. Johnson as director, I don't agree with everything he brings me, but when he does bring things that makes a lot of sense, which more than likely, about 98% of the time, it may be that 2% that I'd be like, no. But for the most part, man, I do appreciate everything that you bring to the table. That's why you're sitting in that seat in that capacity because I knew you was the right person for that job. We had a lot of applicants, but I don't think nobody could do a better job than you sitting in that seat because you know CRA, man. And, you give it to us straight, and I can appreciate that. And then going to the attorney, sitting up here with him as long as I've been sitting up here with him, man, and just, having him, give us a layout of how the law really works, especially, when he, speak about certain things, I listen, I pay attention to everything that you say. I really appreciate everything that you bring to the table. I don't think we can ask for a better attorney to fulfill the need of giving us everything that we need in terms of just, protection. And I think we're gonna continue doing a great job in that capacity as well, man. So I, salute you for the job that you do on a regular basis and, on a daily basis also. And my condolences definitely go out to the Bradshaw family. Been on them for a very long time. It was devastating when I heard of the passing of their son, someone that I watched grow up as a little kid to an adult. He had such a bright future. But I know one thing about my God we serve, he prepared a place for all of us, you know what I'm saying? And my hearts and thoughts are with that family, her entire family. And anything that she's going through right now, I can only imagine what she's going through. I never experienced losing a child, but I can only imagine where her heart's at. But when I do speak with her, because I've been giving her an opportunity to grieve, But my heart and thoughts are definitely going out to you, Paula, you, Ken, if you guys are watching. Love you guys like your family. And I definitely be at both of the services. And then also this weekend, which is something that I definitely look forward to quarterly with the Stokey event that's put on by Vice Chairman Washington. It's a great event. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to come out and experience it, but we had boots on the ground. The last event, it was so good that they're doing it again. And anybody that want to come out in a kid-friendly environment, it's an opportunity of a lifetime, if you ask me, because I had people say, "Man, I missed that," because they seen it on a social platform, and they were like, "Man, I missed that. This was in Eatonville." Yes, this was in Eatonville. So I say that to say this right here. We're going down a very positive direction. And I know we don't have all the taverns, we don't have all the businesses that we want necessarily, but this is gonna open the door of opportunity when we do get to that point of building, everything that we need and want, in this community to be successful. For us to do the things that we're doing now, imagine when we actually get to the point of building. Like you stated, when we'll concentrate on building, man. We ain't got time for nothing else. Like seriously, and for you to paint a bad picture of us, we gotta let people be people. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, as long as we're getting things done up here and doing constructive things, that's gonna make sure that this town is thriving and moving forward. That's all that matters, guys. But anyway, that event gonna be taking place on Saturday, June 28th, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Come out, have a great time. And then I'm also looking forward to the renovation and development of this building down here, the CRA building. That's a very nice look. You know what I'm saying? We get to the point. And I think with everybody sitting up here, if we can, all agree to move forward. Then you gotta think about it. Think about it this way. It's grant money that we don't have to buy. We're not paying for anything, you know what I'm saying? And if we do, it's in a local agreement within the town and the CRA. And hopefully we can get in the direction of just having it two different entities like we had before. I think it's gonna run more operational better when we get to that point. That way you have this side and you have this side. But neither here nor there, if all minds and hearts are clear, man, that's my report. And love you all and ain't nothing you can do about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, yeah, my sympathy goes out to Paula and her family. And when is the services?
The wake is tomorrow at 6:30 and the service is, I'm gonna send it to everybody so you have it. And the services is Saturday morning at 10.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you very much. Now, the event for this weekend, are there any CRA funds being used for this purpose?
Initially, just so you know, any money that's been spent from the CRA is being reimbursed. We had a tremendous contribution from a title sponsor that basically is covering all the costs. Right, so all the sponsors and that stepped in, 3D Tires, Mr. Jackson, Fringe Benefits, Grant Tree Service, Access Homes, Bella 40. There's probably some more I'm missing, but it's been a community outreach effort to help fund this event. Yeah. Us using our funds. We just used them initially so we can get all the contracts taken.
So we're not spending any funds on this?
We have spent for the entertainment, but it's all coming back out of the funds.
And how much was that?
$3,400. No, I'm sorry, $4,000.
And should that have come for the board?
Yeah.
Why not?
The agency, I have the authority to spend up to a certain amount in the check. Up to 75.
Okay. All right, other than that, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Definitely condolences to Miss Bradshaw and her family. That was something that was touching my heart about it. But sad too. It was a youth kid. At this time, I have to tell you that we just need love on each other, and you just don't know who will be here tomorrow. You just don't know. And thanks for the CRA and grouping up with Stogies. I mean, this is the time that we did start out using some funds, but we did have a good contribution of those sponsors to do not to really touch CRA funds. So that's really going to zero out what they did up front for us. So we definitely earned the funds to, well, if they did anything for us, to put it back in there. So
So it'll be coming back to the
yes, that will be touched.
Okay.
Be back. Yes, anything they put out, we get it back. Don't try to. We get it back.
That's taken care of first when we do all the balance sheets and everything.
Okay.
So I look out, for everybody to come out, enjoy themselves. I hate some of the stuff that goes on social media with what happened in Orange County board meeting with citizens, former people that work for the town. That guy did work for the town at one point in time in his life. And say things like that. When I see him in the street, we always be respectful of one another. So when I see him again in the streets, I would confront him about that situation. And I would do it boldly too, because I don't like that. Because this guy, we meet, we talk at funerals, we do everything. At Wawa, I seen him at there one time, and we had a conversation. He never mentioned these kind of things that was going on in our community. But that's about hate. You see it on social media, like I said, that's what we gotta get over with, but when it start hitting home, like you said, we gotta tackle it from the top. That's all I have to say. That's my report.
I don't have anything to say except that it's gonna be a real problem becoming all the loud fans.
Man, where are they? Already don't go on the train. Where are they?
Sad. Is there a motion?
Before you vote,
Wait, I'm sorry.
I do have fans. Yes, I do.
Not for us.
Yeah,
Let them be a buzz for me.
We also are blocking off from the mayor's parking space all the way on that road for the board members to park. So it's open for you guys to park and then staff. So
It's
that's
fine.
gonna be, because it's open parking, but we're blocking that off to make sure you have adequate parking.
We appreciate that, man. Listen, you do a great job. man.
Um,
Thank you so much.
As long as it's not about fans.
It's not, it's about next month's meeting, since does the training in Fernandina Beach fall on the same week as the scheduled meeting?
So the training will not be, because
Okay.
I'm gonna schedule it when everybody's here. It won't be,
I mean, does the monthly meeting fall on that week? Is that the third?
we won't be having a July meeting.
Okay, so that's all I need. Thank you.
Fourth of July.
It's a training. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right. All hearts and minds. It is 8:21. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, 8:21, we are adjourned. Keep y'all fans on.
If y'all want, you
Cause one thing I want.
I don't know, they put